Hi everybody, welcome to Line of the Week number 136, Motif Development Using Melodic Rhythms. This week's line is all about rhythmic displacement. Let's start with a definition of rhythmic displacement from Hal Crook's book, How to Improvise. Rhythmic displacement occurs when the rhythm of a previous motif is repeated but starting on a different beat than the previous motif. There are two kinds of rhythmic displacement: symmetrical displacement and asymmetrical displacement. The first is easier to execute than the latter. Symmetrical displacement means repeating the rhythm of a previous motif but starting 2 full beats away from its original starting point in the measure. This produces a displaced yet somewhat balanced rhythmic effect. Asymmetrical displacement in 4/4 time means repeating the rhythm of a previous motif but starting at 1 or 3 full beats away from its original starting point in the measure. This produces a more displaced and less balanced rhythmic effect compared to symmetrical displacement and is normally more difficult to execute. Before we go to the line of the week, and so we're all on the same page, here are the chords to the progression. The chords are A minor 7 to D7 to G major 7 for 2 measures, and then to D minor 7, and then to G7, and then to C major 7. And in measure 8 there's a mistake. It should just be a 2-5 going back to C major 7. So in measure 8 the chords should be D minor 7 to G7 instead of the G major 7. Here are the chord scales I use. I use the notes from the chord scales for two things. First, as a source of notes for improvising, and second, to determine tensions to use for comping. The chord scales I'm using today are G major to E flat melodic minor to D pentatonic for 2 measures, and then C major, and then A flat melodic minor, resolving to G pentatonic. Here's the melodic rhythm I'm using this week. This motif is from Jerry Bergonzi's book, Volume 4, Melodic Rhythms Used with Permission. Here's the line of the week with Guitar Pro backing I use to make sure I'm getting the notes and the rhythm accurate. Let me say a few things about the line of the week. In measure 1, you've got the original motif. In measure 2, you've got a variation of the original motif. Beginning in measure 3, you have a 1-note fragment of the original motif. At the end of measure 3 and into measure 4, you've got the original motif with an extension at the end, displaced by 2 full beats. This is an example of symmetrical displacement. In measures 5 and 6, you've got another variation of the original motif displaced by 2 beats. This is another example of symmetrical displacement. In measure 7, you've got a variation of the original motif, and then in measure 8, you've got a rest. Also note the points of resolution of tension by half step. I try to point out these examples of resolving tension by half step every time because it's so often overlooked and it's so important for making melodic sounding lines. At the point of chord change, it's important to resolve non-harmonic tones, meaning avoid notes or disagreeable tones, by half step to an agreeable note. You can resolve tension either directly, meaning immediately, or indirectly within a beat and a half. In other words, at the point of chord change, you only leap from a note if it's agreeable, meaning harmonic, to both the chord of the moment and the next chord. Otherwise, you need to resolve the note, preferably by half step. In this line of the week, we resolve tension at the point of chord change in 3 places, circled in red. Note B under A minor 7 resolves to B flat under the D7 to get the altered sound under the D7. In note B flat, or rather, next, you've got note B flat resolving to A under G major 7. And then, thirdly, you've got note E flat resolving to D under C major 7. So thank you very much for watching this week, and we'll see you next week.